No, he needs to turn it around.
Who's all here with this?
He needs to turn the screen around.
Trying to delete some things so I can download it really quickly.
The camera. Push the camera. There. Alright, let me know when we're ready.
That up too high?
Just a little bit.
That's still up too high?
I don't think so.
I think it's good. Okay.
You ready?
Yep.
Alright, well welcome everyone and thank you for joining us, the We Us and Our show. Today is Juneteenth, June 16th, so happy Juneteenth to everyone. We want to first of all introduce ourselves. We are the co-hosts of the We Us and Our show. I'm Kara Warner.
I'm Trishana Helm.
And Michael Phelps in the house.
Alright, so as you can see there's a slight difference of dynamics today, so we're going to try to smooth our way in, make sure that everything goes smoothly this go round. So please let us know, add a comment, let us know exactly how you felt about the dynamic and the vibe of the show, so that we know what to do moving forward. What we're going to discuss today is mental health in the Black community and the stigma attached to mental health in the Black community. So I'm going to go ahead and let Mike or Trishana kind of give a synopsis of what mental health is and what it looks like in the Black community.
This is the topic.
This was my topic. I did choose this topic. I personally chose this topic because there's so many things we talk about with like relationships and how come things fail, communication, but a lot of it comes from a mental state of mind. You know, a lot of people, we can't be healthy within certain relationships, businesses, communication because of the fact that we have deeper pain within ourselves, and a lot of times it's just swept under the rug, especially in the Black community, or it's made fun of, or it's quit acting crazy and go in your room, or shut my door and quit acting stupid, stuff like that, or what, you gonna kill yourself now, or what you stressed, so it's kind of like some mockery to me in the Black community when we say stuff. It's taken very lightly, and this is something I've suffered with depression for years, and the fact that it's easier for me to talk about now because I know what to do if I have those situations come back. So I just feel like if we were able to relate and get that message out there and be able to help others, then why not? So
Absolutely. Yeah.
That is deep because I just working in housing and working in being a maintenance guy or community activist, business owner, just seeing the people and the dynamics that a lot of our people are facing, as far as in relationships with one another. I could see the mental health. I could see the mental, disformities that we have, and I believe all of us have them. I don't believe it's just one individual or a certain individual. I believe all of us have them, even the educated to the non-educated.
right.
Yeah. And mental health, I feel that in lieu of everything that has transpired, but probably within the last 3 weeks of some prominent celebrities that have committed suicide, just that spirit of suicide and depression and what that looks like to the outside world, but just to hone it in on the black community and what that looks like within our community it's really important for us to touch on that, because like Mike and Trishana said, a lot of us do or have experienced some type of mental health issue or challenge, whether it be currently or in the past. I always like to say that all of us are dealing with something because all of us have been traumatized at one point. So it just depends on, first of all, how chronic or mild it is, and then also how we choose to either redirect how we feel, or how we cope with how we feel. So there's healthy coping mechanisms, and then there's unhealthy coping mechanisms. And so I think that has a lot to do with how we're able to maintain and function in society, depending upon how healthy our coping is. But a lot of people don't know how to cope with depression or trauma or suicidal thoughts or schizophrenia, whatever the case may be.
So do you believe that the reason why they don't know how to cope because they haven't identified or admit that they have a problem?
I think that some people may have or may not have identified that they have a problem. There are some people that go to therapists and they know before they even go to the therapist that something's not right. There's an imbalance somewhere. But I think that just based off of your experience and your lifestyle and what you've been taught about mental health, sometimes you just don't know how to cope with it. So I think it's more so about experience as opposed to, and it could, everything is isolated, so I can't really pinpoint and generalize this is exactly what's going on, and I'm not a mental health practitioner, but I would suggest that it's more so your experiences throughout life that will conjure up some type of development of how to either cope in a healthy way or unhealthy way.
When you say cope, though, what do you mean by cope? Do you mean to just accept the fact that you have it and just kind of work with it, or cope as in just take it? I don't know. For me, cope just kind of sounds like I'm accepting it and I'm just gonna live with it the rest of my life. Or do you say
well, coping, in my opinion, is just basically learning how to function in that moment of feeling. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you can always overcome a thing, mm-hmm. but it depends on your mentality and how strong you are, how strong mentally you are to be able to, and I shouldn't even say strong, I should say your emotional intelligence. That has a lot to do with it, of how you're able to cope. And when I say cope, I mean how you're able to function in that moment. Right. Because when you're going through something like molestation, it's happening. Mm-hmm. So it's not like I can say to someone who's gone through or experienced molestation, oh, you can just get over that.
Right.
No, that's not generally what happens. So I have to suggest a way to healthily, if that's a word, cope with what transpired throughout my life. I have to learn how to forgive that person if that's going to help me cope. Right. Or to address that person if that's going to help me cope, as opposed to picking up a beer bottle and allowing that to be my coping mechanism.
Right. And I see a lot of that. A lot of people just think, oh, they're a pothead, whatever. A lot of people are dealing with a lot of mental issues, and they cover it up with drugs, like you said, weed, and then they just kind of act like it's the norm. And don't get me wrong, like you said, Michael, everyone has a tick. Everyone got something that's a little off with them, a little screws loose. And that's okay, that's totally normal. But we're talking about like the real type of depression, like the kind where it hurts, it physically hurts. Like you have real pain to leave the house or to even face certain individuals, and you have piercing thoughts of things. Like I have really bad OCD, so on top of being depressed and had OCD, so it's like I was stuck on thinking those thoughts. And if my mind would be clear from thinking thoughts, the obsessiveness in me would go back to, why am I not thinking this anymore? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So for me, it was like a double whammy. I have like counselors in my family. I try to say like, oh, I think I have like, obsessive compulsive disorder or whatever. And they're just like, yeah, you might. And they just kind of left it alone at that. And it started really young because I got obsessed with like even numbers. I still have like weird, like I will go check the door twice. And if I accidentally checked it 3 times, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was 3 times I got over. Now like check the door, make sure it's locked. So I used to do like stuff like that. And I don't want to call it dumb because we all have those type of things, but to me it was annoying. But then as I was maturing, and you go through that phase of life where you don't know who you want to be or who you want to become. And I went through that in high school as I was going from junior, senior year to the real world, and it got really bad. And I just remember going through like the deepest times. Like there was a point where I felt like I didn't even want to be a girl, and just random stuff. You know what I mean? And it's like the devil would really try. Not that I ever wanted to be a boy. It just was like I felt uncomfortable in my own skin, in my own body, and then because I was kind of thicker in high school, I feel like everyone was looking at me in a sexual way. It's just a bunch of thoughts that would just take over my mind. And so going to school those last few months of my senior year was difficult. And I really had no one to talk to. You know what I mean? It's like no one could relate. I cut all my friends off intentionally because they were into smoking and drinking. I'm like, okay, I know that's who I don't want to be, but I didn't know who I wanted to be. So it was like a big
identity
blur.
crisis.
Yeah.
So when we thinking about our people, what is the percentage of those who identify and recognize that they have a problem versus court order or someone that needs to be on public assistance and they had to go through these programs to apply for a house or some type of stamps or something? Because sometimes that's when the identifier comes and let them know that they have a problem. It's through systematic. What's the percentage of those who actually came to a conclusion that they have a problem? That's where I think that's where most of the problem is at, because I don't think it's that the percentage is lower there versus court order or needed to get into a program or to go through a program just to get certain aids, assistance or something. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, we have some statistics here. I'm not necessarily sure that there's data on. You're suggesting people who have identified it, but they haven't gone through a particular system. So I don't know if there would have been any data or any major reporting on that, just because if there's no reason to, you know what I'm saying, then maybe that data wouldn't be there.
So do you think that, not to cut you off, do you just in my experience and just something that I'm just thinking, and I might not be 100% correct, do you think that that's why some of the churches become mega churches? Because most of the people that have a problem, they think
sorry, I'm trying not to laugh.
They think religion is going to solve their whole.
Yeah.
They think religion is going to solve their problem. And I'm just that's just a broad.
Absolutely.
A broad thing. I just want everybody to understand, because coping mechanism, and not just always drugs. It can be things that you take part in that you think that it's going to bring partisan to your oppression and depression.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It doesn't have to be drugs. It could be anything. It could be sex. It could be religion.
Social groups.
It could be social groups. It could be fraternity, sororities. It could be, whatever you put most of your energy to, and you don't have any type of balance, is probably your coping mechanism. You know what I'm saying? So whether it be relationships, your job, any of it can be overkill. Yes, I do think that a lot of people think that, if I go to church, God's going to heal me from this. And just my personal opinion, I do believe in the power of healing through Jesus Christ and the blood shed. I do believe that. I can't really say with certainty that there aren't people who need medication. I can't say that for certain. I just know, me personally, I have always had a fear of medication. So again, depression, huge aspect of my life. My mom suffered from it, and a lot of that is hereditary. So I've suffered from deep depression. I've struggled with deep sadness, and there is a difference between the two. And I went to church and felt better that Sunday, but then when I would go home, it would be the same thing. And then I would just keep praying and praying and praying and praying, and nothing would, it just was still that heaviness, and nothing would break it. Now today, I'm able to pray my way through most things, and I'm not on any type of medication right now for anything, and I feel that I'm able to self-regulate to a certain extent. And there's times where I start to feel myself getting really depressed, and then I just snap out of it, because I know that I can go to my prayer room. That's what I do. I can't say for certain that that's going to help everyone, but I do believe, to your point, yes, people do run to the church for that healing, and they don't necessarily explore other options. And some people may really need to, and I don't. And I'm on the fence with that. I'm not really sure,
well,
but
let me break this down. I don't want to sound like I'm church bashing, but what I'm saying, a church, when people run to the church for the healing mechanism, we got to remember it's not a one-on-one personal relationship, impactful thing that a person is going to actually get. A man is on the pulpit preaching a message that might touch something of you, but it's not a one-on-one actually healing mechanism.
But there's some people who are too hurt and depressed to even go to church and face people. I was one of those people every Sunday, and I grew up, you going to church or it's your butt, So I would find reasons as to why I couldn't go to church. I would go to church and look at the pastor and listen to everyone else and their happiness and their applause, and it made me feel less of a person going to church. So I didn't like to go to church because I didn't like to see people happy, or I didn't like to feel like I was such a big sinner, or I didn't know who I was, or whatever.
Everybody catching the Holy Ghost, but you.
Yeah, but me, and it's like I just wanted to sit in my misery, to be honest. And I never was diagnosed with it, but I know when things were off with me. I also personally don't believe in medication, really, for anything. Like, I don't really believe in taking medicine. I do feel like once you're on stuff like that, and I know some people who are on medication for depression, and it's like the minute you don't take it, you spaz out, you know what I mean? And I like to be in control of myself at all times. So the fact that depression and anxiety and all that stuff kicked in and I wasn't in control of myself, I'm a big believer in talking to myself. Like, I am my biggest
self-affirmation.
Yes. So what really helped me when I would realize that I was really getting into depression, at first, like I said, I like to sit in it first. So I had to know that I wanted to get out of it, and my brother had just moved away to college, and we weren't even close. But I just remember calling him one day, and I was like, bro, like, I really want to kill myself. He was like, why? And I'm just like, I don't know. I just don't feel like myself and all this other stuff. He was like, if there's something in this life you don't want to do, he's like, just don't. It's that simple. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. And when he said that, of course, when you're still deep and sad, it doesn't register, but him saying that rung in my head until this day, because this was back in like 2011. So it still rings in my head to this day. If there's something you don't want to do it, don't. If you know that's something that you are not, then just don't do it. So talking to him really helped. And then I would also look up other people's scenarios to know I'm not the only one who felt like that. So when I would read other people's scenarios, I would say, okay, Trishana, this is fake. This is make-believe. This is not true. This is fake. This is false. And that also started helping me to realize, okay, you can overcome this on your own.
Right.
So.
And I just want to note that we're not mental health practitioners. We're just discussing our experiences and things that have helped us overcome what we feel are mental health issues amongst ourselves as individuals. I'm really huge on not offending anybody, because some people really do. They do take medication, and that's the only way they know to regulate it. So I don't want to offend anybody in regards to how we have chosen not to not self-medicate, but take medication or self-medicate. Right. But there are legitimately people who are on medication and they're dependent on it because that's all they know. So we want to note that as well.
Yeah, and sometimes, if a lot of people don't know where that pain come from, and so what they're trying to do is make an assumption of where they assume that it came from. A lot of this pain comes from broken families. The family dynamic is not what it used to be, so therefore sometimes we just we program ourselves to be disconnected from that we need, that root. The tree has a root, and if we separate ourselves from the root, then that tree is no good.
Right.
So, and I think that we have separated ourselves from our roots and trying to fit into another, and trying to put on these masks. That's why I posted a lot of stuff about masks. We put on these masks to try to cover up some of the things that's really in us, that things that are going through us. And I think, this is just my opinion, and some of the things that they're diagnosing with, I believe that those are spirits, and I believe that they're possessions. I think some people are just possessed.
I think a lot of it too, those people that you hang around. Like when I was in school, I was doing the whole partying thing, drinking, smoking at an early age, and the fact that I knew it wasn't me, and I was hanging out with these people, it's like their energy literally starts to take over who I was. Their problems literally start to become my problems. I got so absorbed into these people to the point where it's like, and this is why to this day I am an advocate. I do not have best friends. Lord Jesus, thank you, hallelujah, praise the Lord. I don't believe in it. Like, I don't want anyone to be that close to me ever, unless it's like a relationship, because I don't have time to take on those deep thoughts of other people and what they're going through. And like I said, I talk to myself. So at that time when you're in high school, you know, your problems you call your best friend, whether it's 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. And I was taking on so many other things within the own things I had going on, like you said, in my family. So it just became like I just got to a real deep sunken place. I was holding on my burdens, their burdens, and then it's also a lot of pressure, because if your family's in college, they graduated, they're like, you have to be the next this, and you're gonna be the next that, and we're gonna pay for your scholarship. I went to all these colleges, and I was looking around, I'm just like, nuh-uh. And that's when I really just started like, I don't know where to go. But I will say this, and this may sound crazy, but everything that I went through saved my life. So all the thoughts I had literally saved my life, because when I went through the depression is when I realized I wanted to open up a boutique, and that's brought me full circle basically to where I am today. So it's like I wouldn't take any of it back. Right. I wouldn't change any of it, but it literally saved my life though. Like my business saved my life, because that's where I was going. And a lot of people who say they want to kill themselves, they really don't want to kill themselves, you know? It's just you don't want to die, but you don't want to be here either.
Well, the pain is just so sometimes unbearable. I mean, yeah, I've had suicidal thoughts throughout the course of my life, and you know, some people may look at you and say, "No, wait, not you," you know, and that's what I feel when I tell people, like, I've had suicidal thoughts. Oh no, not you! Like you know, you've got it all together. I think the pressure of, like you just got to saying, it's really the pressure of just living and having people having a expectation of you to live a certain way or to be a certain way, and in reality you are really trying to cope with what has all transpired in your life. Right. I do want to, if it's okay with you all, I do want to give a little bit of statistics. So historically, adversity, which includes slavery, sharecropping, and race-based exclusion from health, educational, social, and economic resources, translate into socio-economic disparities experienced by African Americans today. Socioeconomic status, in turn, is linked to mental health. So people who are impoverished, homeless, incarcerated, or have substance abuse problems are at higher risk for poor mental health.
I mean, yeah, that all makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that's you know, I mean, when integration, when Martin Luther King, when he was fighting the good fight about trying to get us to integrate, you know, that was a long, dragged out fight. And, you know what I mean, and it took a lot of wear and tear on people. And then once the fight was over, it was ironic and iconic that he was in the room with the depression after the fight, right after the fight, after they won. He was in the room with a depression. Ella Delafonte came in, the actor. He came in and said, "Hey, what's his name?" Ella Delafonte.
Barry. What's his name?
Barry.
It's not El Delafonte. It's Barry. What is that dude's name?
What was his name?
I don't know. I gotta look it up.
Yeah.
Harry Belafonte.
Harry Belafonte. Yeah. But when he came in the room, he asked him what was wrong, because he said, "Man, we won. We won the segregation. We won the bill. We fought hard, long and hard." Martin Luther King said, "I have led my people into a burning building. I felt like I led my people into a burning building," because he knew integration was going to destroy us after the fact. It's like he got a revelation right after the bill was signed. That is deep. For him to be in the depression right after the fight. I'm talking about, he wasn't depressed while they're going through the fight. He got that depression right after they won. And then mentioned that, and then it was noted and it was written down. So as we think about that, and then we look at the world, look at us today. We don't have no schools of our own. We don't have no businesses of our own. Only thing we have left with is liquor stores and churches.
The only thing I'm gonna say about that, and I hate to be rude, but I absolutely hate that. Like, that's so annoying to me because I see so many people, this is slightly getting off topic, but I see a lot of people on Facebook like, oh, they're gonna build a blacks only school, this and that. And to me, it's like, why go backwards? Why take a step backwards? Why do we want blacks only schools? Why do we want, you know what I mean? Like, that's stupid to me.
Well, let us revisit. Let's take the microscopic lens and look at the condition our people in of understanding through a mechanism of understanding. It ain't just about it being black. It's about teaching what we don't know. Remember, the Bible said, if we all say we believe in scriptures, the Bible said, "My people perish for what? Lack of knowledge and lack of vision." So if the vision has been taken from us and been distorted by those who oppresses us, and then they're able to come in and twist the narrative, and they sell us their history and not our history. And everything we learned in their schools was their history, not ours. So don't you think that hurts a generation of people? Because now you don't know who you are to know who you are. So now you see an imagery of a Christ. He's white, and then when you go in and tell them, well, that's not what I read in the Bible. It says he's black. Oh, it doesn't matter. This was your own people say.
That's a whole different topic, but I will say that's a whole.
But that's psychological. That's mental.
That's a big. I feel like black people in general, we like to play the victim a lot, and it's kind of annoying. I mean,
is that a victim?
Rightfully so. Rightfully so. But I feel like we can't keep victimizing ourselves. That's a whole different topic, though.
Yeah, I think that we definitely have to take accountability. I'm very huge on accountability, but we also cannot deny the fact that these things occur and that they have traumatized us. And I think that once we lose sight of what happened and why it happened and how it happened, that's when we fall into an identity crisis. Is because you don't know what occurred for you to actually be in this state.
And that's where the depression came in, when you said that you didn't know who you are. You didn't know if you want to be a boy, you didn't want to be a girl.
I didn't say I want to be a boy.
No, not be a boy, but
she didn't say that. She said she didn't want to be.
I didn't want to have.
And I understand what she's saying, because there is a point in a woman's life where she feels like she's just here for sex. I mean, there has been time. I can totally understand. There has been times where you want more for yourself as a woman. You may want to be a wife. You may want to, whatever the case may be. You may want to be an educator. You may want to be certain things. But the way that most people come at you is just like, you just a piece of meat. Like, this is just, you're just here for my pleasure. So I do understand. And that does, and you know what? Some people, just one second, I'm sorry. Because I remember one time, one of my friends thought that I was being like, I don't know. She just thought that I was being some type of way, like I was
gay.
No, not gay. Just she thought that I was being I don't know what the word is. No, not promiscuous. She thought that I was being funny. Like, so this is what I said. Mm-hmm. I said to her, like, sometimes I just don't want to be pretty. Mm-hmm. And she thought that I was being like, she just want attention.
Right.
Because why would you not want to be pretty? Mm-hmm. But I really meant that. It's when you are an attractive woman, you get a certain type of attention that you don't necessarily want. And sometimes you succumb to it because that's all you get.
Right.
And there was a time where I was just like, I'm not going nowhere. Mm-hmm. I'm just not, and I'm not the cutest woman in the world, whatever, but it just seemed like that's all I got. And so in that respect, you fall into a depression. You can fall into depression because of that.
Right.
Just because of that.
And
You know, sometimes your privilege,
Yeah.
or
Right.
sometimes, you know, it just becomes overwhelming because that's not really what you want internally. That's not your internal self. Like, I'm just
And
out here,
on
you
this
know.
show, my mom always like, well, you might want to watch what you say because the way you word stuff, and because I do YouTube and I'm so transparent, like I don't care to try to word it differently. But no, just to clear the air, I never wanted to be a boy. But like you said, when you feel like, not like necessarily a sex symbol, because guys go for anything, whether how you look, boobs, butt, whatever. Oh, you gotta. It just came in.
It's still recording. We're good.
Okay. So I just like I didn't want to go to school and be looked at, you know, like you said, for different body parts, or you know. And then I even had close friends that were guys who I was just cool with, who start confessing their love for me, and I just wanted to be with you. And it's just like I'm tired of being compared to every girl in the school, or whose butt can you get today, or you know. And I was never that person. Still to this day, I still don't do that. I still don't just hook up with random people. It's just, that's just who I am. Like I learned, like I said, at an early age, with going through that crisis, I learned at an early age who I was and who I was going to become, and I decided from then on out, I'm putting my foot down, and this is how I'm going to carry myself, and this is who I am. So, like you said, you just don't. Sometimes you don't want to feel like.
Well,
And so that
yeah,
all
yeah,
ties
yeah.
into like
but
just the small.
the
I'm
mental,
sorry. The
but-
small things do. It manipulates your mind. Like those small thinking mechanisms. It changes your mind about things.
But let us go back.
Is it church?
Let's pedal back. Pedal back into history. Now, I understand what y'all saying, because you're saying that guys always looked at y'all as sex symbols.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta remember, in history, and it's noted, and it's written in books, and it's in understanding, is that they took certain men and made them breeders.
Mm-hmm.
So when a lot of these guys, the mentality that they have came from like a slavery ancestry
And that's true.
mentality.
And that's
So
true.
and when people use languages like, well, we need to be held accountable. Well, first and foremost, how can you hold somebody accountable when they don't even identify that slavery has affected us or impacted us in a certain way, that we're, and to this day, we're still living off of the Willie Lynch letter.
But not everybody. Not everybody is ignorant to that fact. You know what I'm saying? Like, all of us is ignorant to that. All of us is ignorant to the fact that slavery impacted us negatively in a negative way. No. So yeah, we do have to hold each other accountable for that, and those who don't know, we have to educate them on that.
Well, you know, but the thing
you
is,
do have to. There is a
but what is
accountability
education?
piece.
But how do you educate those who? Right. Okay. This is where it gets tricky, because you gotta remember, everybody don't read There's 4 seasons in the world. We deal with what season? We deal with all 4 seasons. Name the seasons. You have summer, spring, winter, and fall. Everybody's not at the same season that you are.
So you contextualize.
So when we say hold people accountable, just gotta remember there's a season for everything. Remember the Bible said there's a time for everything. And everybody don't reach the peak that you reached at right now. You at a young age and reach where someone at 60, 70 years old still haven't reached.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they up in age and number, that doesn't mean they're matured in that.
But we gotta get there somewhere, some way.
But
So what I'm
history.
suggesting is that you have to contextualize. Contextualization means you get down to the person's level. Not everybody does learn in the same way,
Capacity.
in the same capacity, at the same level. They don't always use the same systems. We have to be intentional about educating our community about some of this stuff. Otherwise, we're gonna continue like this until Jesus comes. I mean, honestly. Now, we need to figure out how to communicate with people. Are we still live?
Yeah, just turn the camera around.
The camera, yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
This thing is so. I hate when people
It's
call.
okay. So we have to. Okay, the first and foremost, we need to learn how to communicate with one another, right? We do. We just that's the bottom. To me, that's really the bottom line. If I can learn how to communicate with you, and it's not always about this pride thing. Oh well, if I say it this way, then and she doesn't receive it, that's on her. No, I need to learn how to communicate and how you're going to receive information. I have to learn that. And if you expect me to learn that, then I expect you to learn how I receive communication. Right. So in order to do that, we have to communicate with one another. Kara, how do you like to be spoken to? How do you like to be spoken to? Trishana, how do you know what I mean? So then we can have these type of conversations. You see what I'm saying?
Can I go back to what Michael said quickly about the slavery thing and how, these people are this way and guys were, all that for, what'd you say? How'd you word it?
They was made breeders.
Yeah. So I'm a firm believer in rewriting our own history. Me personally, I agree with all the history and the things that occurred, but I just feel like that can't be the excuse for everything that occurs. Because, for instance, one of my ex-boyfriends told me every male in his family went to jail. And he got to a point, he almost kind of went through a little crisis too around that age when you're maturing, whatever. And he was like, I just feel like I'm going to go to jail. And, the schools are bad now, so cops were coming to the schools and frisk students for no reason. And they were frisking him, and he never had anything on. And I'm just like, you don't have to go to jail because your dad went to jail for 20 years, and your brother went to jail, and everybody went to jail. And he's just like, no, I see it, I'm going to go to jail. And I'm like, dude, I was trying to pour into him, you're not gonna have to do stuff like that, you know what I mean? And to this day, this man has never stepped foot in jail, never been handcuffed, there's time to break the cycle. In my family, everyone's had children 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, sorry family, 2 or 3 by the time they were 18, 19, right. And here I am 24, about to be 24, and she's not pregnant today, nor will she be this year at all. So it's you can't live by everything that happened in the past. Why did you steal from the store? Oh, because my mom used to steal my clothes. You are now responsible for thine self. Okay. Although it happened in the past, you must rewrite your own history. Otherwise, you're going to keep falling.
And that's accountability. And that is accountability. Yes, that is. That is. It is accountability.
It's not accountability. That means that someone has conceptualized. Like that, they don't want to make the same mistake, but everybody.
That's holding yourself accountable.
No, but listen, what I'm saying. Everybody don't have the mental. You got to remember. That's why we talk about.
But you can't make an excuse for them either and say, "Oh, well, that's in her history, so go ahead on, baby, pop out that fourth kid."
What I'm saying. Why are we talking about mental health? Mental health means more than just something that you can see. Some mental health are things that are transferable. Transferable. That everybody is not going to get.
But that goes back to what she said at the very beginning when she said it's about how strong-minded or how mature your brain is.
But everybody's brain, even though you might see them, you can look at a strong buck, a strong guy that's cock strong, but mentally he's weak.
Okay.
I know several of those.
So what I'm saying is accountability is that's a different area. Mental health is mental health. Accountability is over here. So.
But they tie in.
So yeah, they tie. At some point they will, but it depends on your developmental phase. Because at 24, I didn't care. I was just doing what I wanted to do in terms of everything I did. I didn't care. But what I'm saying is, when I became a mother, and I had to be responsible for another being. That's when I started doing some major self-reflecting. This is why this is occurring. This is why I operate in relationships like this. It's because of this. Okay, so because my father wasn't in the household, he wasn't in the household, that really did something. I felt some type of way about him, whatever the case may be. But at 30, I have to take accountability now and be a woman. I can't continue to fault my dad for not being in the home, and then say I can't be a woman because of that.
Right.
No.
Well, what I'm saying, because I don't want to get misconstrued.
She just preached though a little bit, I didn't felt it.
I'm just saying that's accountability.
Because I think what y'all doing, y'all neglecting the understanding mechanism. There's an understanding tool that you have to have.
No, there's no neglect. There's no neglecting it. It's just where you I believe wholeheartedly what you're saying.
Let me give you a toolbox. A toolbox has many tools in it. Each tool has to be utilized at a certain particular task.
Right.
Every tool don't be used at the same time. If I take a hammer when I need a tape measure, I'm gonna do more damage than I'm gonna do good. So what I'm saying is that everybody don't operate in the same capacity. Just because you think they should be where you at and think the way you at,
That's not
they're
what
not
I'm
saying.
saying.
I know, but listen what I'm saying. I want other people out here to understand because we're dealing with millions of people.
Right.
I'm talking about we ain't dealing with just 5 people. We're dealing with millions. So out of a million, there's probably how many people you think like you out there? A small number. How many people think out there like you? A small number. A lot of people like me? Small number. So you have to look at that like that. That's a broader way of seeing things. And only way for us to heal, it is going to take all of us to have an understanding. Because I think the problem is that people come in from educational levels with all these statistics and all this crap, and then they sit down and say, well, they should be able to pull the bootstraps up and do good. That's what they tell the black community. That's what you hear in the black community. Oh, pull your bootstraps up, and then boy, they got 400 years of oppression and advance over us. Mm-hmm. But they telling you to pull your bootstraps and get where they at.
Because it's just like at some point we got to take the chains off, though. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you have to understand.
No,
if the race is not fair, then everybody, what I mean?
But see, we know that it's not fair. Now, at this point, we know it. You're saying that there are some people that they're not savvy to that information, right?
Yeah.
Or
and
they're not developmentally there,
yes,
right?
Exactly.
Well, yeah, I totally agree with that wholeheartedly. I really, really do. But at the same time,
can you start a conversation?
If I'm 36, if I'm 40, if I'm 45, and I still don't get it, I can't keep placing the blame on my dad. I can't, or society, or the white man, or this, that, and the third.
For someone that has an intellectual, yes, you're right.
Okay,
but
so
someone
let's
that doesn't
do
have
this.
the intellectual.
Okay, so then the mental part. So this is where it goes. I'm sorry. This is where it goes back to mental. This is where it goes back to mental, and you're 100% right. You are 100% right. Now, when it comes to that mental capacity, that mental piece, the mental health, and the mental aspect of not being able to identify some of those things,
rationalize information,
right? So my question is to you, is how does somebody reflect on things that have occurred in their mental, like how do you become savvy to the fact that you have a mental dysfunction? How do you do that?
Go ahead and answer that.
Well, I was going to say really quickly, if someone were to break into your house, let's say a young black man were to break in your house, and steal your stuff, you're not going to look at him and say, oh, he only did that because of his ancestors. You know what I'm saying? You're going to be like, oh, this nigga did broke into my house. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
we can't go back.
Good.
We can't go back to just being like, oh, he only did it because, his pawpaw way back in the day twice removed. And now this is the reason why. You know what I'm saying?
But are you
just
okay?
Trying to reconnect.
That's good. That's
so
a good point.
No, that's not a good point. I'm about to break that point down.
That was a good point. That's not the first thing you think about.
It's not. So it's like I get the drama that goes on behind the scenes and what, you know what I mean?
Okay, now she brought up a point that has many variables to it, and I agree to disagree.
You want a napkin?
I agree to disagree. And the reason why I'm gonna disagree to agree is because I do believe that when somebody breaks into my house, I'm not gonna rationalize and identify that this person has a mental problem. I go into survival mode. It ain't about me rationalizing if they have a certain point. When they walk in my house, I already know mentally they're not there.
Right.
So I'm going to go in survival mode. So that's why I'm saying. That's why I said I disagree.
I'm saying you can't. But that was that person who did it, so therefore they should be held accountable. Mm-hmm. Their grandpa's not going to be.
Well, they're going to hold accountable once he walk in my house. He break into my house because he's going to catch these paws.
But what I'm saying is,
so there are consequences to that.
Yeah.
But he's mentally not there.
But after I get through beating,
but Michael, you're holding him accountable. He's the one who broke into your house, so you're holding him accountable.
And you know
so that's what Kara was saying. Like you have to hold yourself or hold these people accountable. So you can't go back to your grandpa, and because you grew up a thug and your whole family's they bank robbers or whatever, you can't go back to that because they weren't the ones who did it. This young man.
Okay, just like that cop shot that boy that had it. He went in. He had a mental problem. He had something in his hand.
Mm-hmm.
They killed him. Remember they killed him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he had a mental problem, but the cops knew he had a mental problem when
Did they
went. Yeah, they knew. They knew. That's why they called and said that he had a mental problem, and they still killed him. But what I'm saying is this: they told him to put the thing down, but he wasn't comprehending fast enough. He had a slower thinking process. I might whoop this guy's butt because he broke into my house, but then when I hear the story that he's mentally challenged, something's going to. If I have a heart and a compassion, I'm gonna feel bad about what I done because I didn't know. Maybe he didn't know what he was doing, or maybe he did know what he was doing. It's not for me to understand it at that moment because I'm in survival mode. I'm trying to protect my family. So I'm not going to understand all that until later on when the bigger umbrella hits. But what I'm saying is that we as people, only way for us to heal, we have to have greater super supreme understanding.
And I can agree with that because I agree with that statement. Look at us agreeing with you, Michael. I agree with that because of the fact that in my family, it's like a mother-daughter issue that occurs. You know how mothers and daughters they catfight and and so it's just like I don't want to be that person, and it's like you said, you have to identify with the history. So I try to help. I don't say any names because my mom is watching, but I try to help people identify with what. I try to help people identify with what hurt it is, so that way you can look at that hurt and forgive that person, whether they want to be forgiven or they know they're the cause or whatever. And so, like what I said when I was going through whole depression issue, whatever, that was probably the worst I've ever been in my entire life. So now when I have things come and hit me in the face, I'm able to get back up because I'm like, I will never, no matter what I do, let myself get all the way back to the place that I once was because I've crawled too far to get to where I'm at today. So now, and that's what I want people to get from this message that we're saying. If you've been through something super, super dark, and of course, as we grow, things are going to keep happening to us. But if you're able to crawl out of that hole, don't let anyone kick you back down into it. You know what I mean?
I agree with that. Now, you see, I agree with that.
But.
No, I don't start a sentence with a but. I agree.
However.
I agree, and what did you say? What did that do now? Great.
It's all these bands
that live video. There's something wrong with the connection.
Was the Wi-Fi hooked up today?
Oh my freaking goodness! That's what I be talking about. This stuff. That's why I'm gonna use my phone. We gotta figure out a way to do it on my.
I just thought about it. I could bring my laptop.
Yeah. Next time.
That's what we need to do because I got a laptop too. I could have brought mine. This stuff right here, this returns people off.
I mean, it's still a good conversation as you catch it.
But some people they don't like that.
Who would have thought barbecue and French onion dip went together?
I'm good.
It is good. How's your brother doing?
He's doing okay. They're trying to say that he's ADHD at school.
Really?
Honey, she said your brother.
Working on that.
Son.
I said brother.
Oh, I thought you said son. I must have my son on my mind. Okay. Anyway, yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry. It's just these, you know how these phones are. They these phones. Somebody call, text, and it just messes up nowadays. I hate that crap. And I put it on do not disturb. I wish the airplane mode would work where but you can't get no Wi-Fi.
It's all right. They understand.
Yeah. Right. But to go back to the comment, because I don't want nobody to think I'm just disagreeing to disagree. We're right now we're arguing our facts because everybody has important facts here, and all facts are they all have merits. I'm not, and I agree with what they're saying. We do have to hold each other accountable and be responsible for our own actions. But we are talking about mental health. And when we talk about mental health, we have to understand, take that into consideration, that everybody mental is not on the same level.
I think we kind of veered away from the conversation of mental health, and we were talking about something. Well, yeah, I do, because clearly, if you have a mental health issue, and it's not being addressed, you're not able to function at the same capacity as someone who is leveled, or whatever you want to say. Because again, we said in the very beginning that everybody has a mental health issue. It just depends on how mild or how chronic it is, and then also how you're able to cope with that. There are some people who just don't know how to cope with their mental issue. So what we were talking about was accountability in different areas of mental health. But if we want to go back to, the condition of mental health and what it looks like in the Black community, let me just read a few things real quick. Despite progress made over the years, racism continues to have an impact on the mental health of Black or African Americans. Negative stereotypes and attitudes of rejection have decreased, but continue to occur. I don't know if I agree with that, but continue to occur with measurable adverse consequences. Historical and contemporary instances of negative treatment have led to mistrust of authorities, many of whom are not seen as having the best interests of Black or African Americans in mind.
So you're talking about media?
Medical practitioners, the media, just society in itself does not have African Americans' best interests
how they paint a picture of us, but you know what's funny? I'm gonna show you how ironic this thing is. What y'all was talking about, y'all made a lot of sense. But I'm gonna show you how
thank you.
I'm gonna show you how when the whites ordained their own people, when a Black man goes and shoot up something, oh, they barbaric, they this and that. But when a white man that has no mental problem, they automatically hurry up and say, oh, he has a mental problem.
And I see that a lot.
So that tells you right then and there that what we're talking about right now, there's some flaws in the conversation.
It's universal, and then there's also conditions to it.
Exactly. So that's the reason why I was arguing my point across, because I'm mad that this thing cut off, because I was going to hit that on the that's why I said I was going to come back for you on that one.
He's going to try to destroy you.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's the thing that they do. So when Blacks are robbing and going breaking into stores and stuff, they call us thugs, hoodlums, and all that. But when white people doing it, they just lootering. I mean, they just angry protesters. You know what I mean? So you have to understand that they understand the mental amongst their people. They know, and that's why they label
or they get a pass because they're white.
Yeah, but
it's that white privilege.
But just remember this. Remember when Charles Manson, they're keeping him in prison because they know that he has a mental problem. And they make
He's
sure
still alive?
Well, he died recently. I think he just died recently.
Okay, but
they kept him alive, but they also studied him and they also praised him for his intelligence, with the mental disability.
Yeah.
They understood that.
That has nothing to do with your intelligence.
Yeah,
Mental health has nothing to do with your intelligence.
But they knew that he was intelligent, but he had the mental capacity to be, whatever they were studying about him. But when it comes to us, it's put him in an electric chair.
I mean, I think you're absolutely right in that regard, because, like you said, the white folks, they completely sweep our mental illness under the rug. Therefore, I feel like a lot of our Black people sweep it under the rug. We're not allowed to have a mental illness, or we're not allowed.
It's a conditioning.
It is.
And we're judgmental towards each other because of our mental conditions.
Right. But in the same regard, if a white person goes and shoots up the whole school, it's like, y'all some terrorists, and Black people, we call that, but white people, like you said, no, it's just a mental thing. But, we won't have our Black people go shoot up a whole school, you know what I mean? So it's like
we do it in other ways, though.
If we shot up the school,
we self-destruct in other ways.
But just think about it. If we went and shot up a white school, shot up a school with a bunch of whites and Blacks in it,
in general,
guess what they would call us? Terrorists.
They already call us terrorists.
But when the white man go in and do it, he has a mental health. He has a mental.
That's called media bias.
And look at that white guy that went in and shot them people at Charleston, Carolina.
The church.
They took him to Burger King.
What?
Yeah.
No, I didn't know about all that.
They carried him with the
They went to Burger King
They
for him
went
to
to
get
Burger
something to
King
eat.
to eat.
he had a bullet.
Shut up.
They did.
They took him. Google
did.
it.
Would you shut up?
Google it.
No, I didn't know that.
I seen that
No, Google it.
And they took him out with a bulletproof vest.
Yes.
Now I did see that.
Google
I know that.
I'm
But
just
I
saying.
didn't know they took this dude to Burger King to
They
get
took him to go get something to eat.
No, I didn't know that.
And look
But
how many.
but you know what that is though. That's white privilege. You're white. So
But
you
they-
have
no,
this privilege
no,
to
it
be
is-
able to go to Burger King
No.
when you're being arrested for a freaking terrorist act, dude.
But-
like that's what. Yes, that's what
No,
they
they
do.
knew that he
No.
had a mental issue.
How did they know that quick?
What he did. He sat in the church for 2 hours listening to that mumbo jumbo.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. I see what
You know
you're.
what I mean?
I see what you're saying. You don't have You don't have to have a diagnosis to come up
Or
with a
prognosis.
conclusion. But what I'm saying is that is in turn white privilege though, because
Yes.
if it was a black person,
They would have shot him dead.
he would have been dead.
Yes.
It's happened before. So I don't know. I just think there's definitely that piece where it's a race. There's a race line that's associated to mental health, and a lot of mental health issues amongst African Americans is associated as being a stigma.
And I
So
guarantee.
we don't talk about it.
And I guarantee those guys, them white guys in prison. I remember when I was in jail when the guy that killed them 2 white boys that killed. I was in Sharpie County Jail when them 2 white dudes killed Kenyatta Bush up at North High when they kidnapped her and decapitated her. They said they cut her neck all the way out and raped her.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was in jail with those guys. They made those guys so comfortable in that jail.
They did.
Yes, they
I
made
believe
them
it.
comfortable
I
in that
believe it.
jail.
Were they older?
And then
or?
guess what? One of the guys killed the guy that actually killed her. He hung himself in the jail
In the
because we
jail.
was gonna get him. And he hung himself. And guess what they did with the other guy? That was
They moved on.
no. They let him go because he wrote, the other guy wrote a letter saying that he was one, but he was a remember that said when you get caught with somebody, what are you, because you aided and assisted, and you get charged the same. He helped kidnap her. They let him go and they moved him out of town. So I'm just showing you that they understand their people. We just don't understand each other. So what we do, we put all kind of emphasis on one another because we don't take the time to understand our people. They understand their people.
It's communication. That's what I said before. It's that communication piece. Now, you asked a question earlier about how many of us actually report that we have a psychological dysfunction or mental health issue. And what this says is that adult Black or African Americans are 20% more likely to report serious psychological distress than adult whites.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever met anyone who actually went and
Thank
said
you.
that they have.
Yeah.
Have you ever suffered with depression?
Yeah.
Like deep depression?
Yeah.
I feel
When
like
I
I
was
want to hear some people's stories because
when I was growing up, not to talk bad about my mom and my family dynamics, but I always felt like that I always been the black sheep of my family. I always been the one that everybody ran to for protection, and I always been the one that had to protect my family. But I was always the one that everybody looked down on at the same time, but they always ran to me for other reasons. And we took the most hits. And my mom, we was the one, me and my brothers and sisters, me and my sister Richetta and Riddell, we the one that took a lot of the bulk of a lot of the issues within the family dynamic. My mom was going through some stuff, and like I said, I had a friend that died. He got killed, and that was in the dude tried to kill me and killed my friend, and when he killed him, I went into a deep depression for almost 2 years. I went to an asylum, which I was cut off. I knew I was cut off from God because I was in a dark place. I was walking around in this dark realm. I was hurt, and I wanted to hurt people because I was hurting. And when I was running around in this darkness, I lost my marriage. I lost my family. I lost a lot of stuff. And at that time, and I was very angry. So anything triggered me to make me react to a certain point. Even if you came to me and told me, you know, you need to calm down, I would be pissed and I'll be ready to strike. My only mechanism to everything was to put my hands on something, fight. And that's what I was taught growing up, that you have to fight as a man. Fight, we wrestle. I learned how to box, wrestle, and all that stuff. So, that was the thing, that was the mechanism that I always used for my healing mechanism or protection.
You're coping.
So, when I was going through that, and I went through that, like I said, 2 years of insomnia, I went crazy. I met a psychiatrist. I was court ordered to go to a psychiatrist.
Wow.
Court ordered. Because, so I went and seen a psychiatrist, and she told me straight up, I'm not going to be able to heal you. She said, you're going to need something greater than me. But she said, but what I can do is take you through a journey. And that's why she took me back to my history. She said, you're mad at your mother, and you're taking it out on women, you're taking it out on other people. And she said, you need to find out what your mother went through and what her parents went through, so you can understand.
Yeah.
So she took me through a journey and made me go back, and I had to go back, had to take notes, had to go ask my mom. My mom would tell you, I went and asked all my aunties, uncles, all of them about our family history. And then when it got down to it, I realized my mom was hurt. My mom was just as hurt as I was.
Right.
So what she was teaching us was something that she was lacking of.
Right.
And then her parents would teach them what they lacked
she was
from.
taught. Yeah.
So it was a generational history of problems.
Right.
And that's why I'm saying that. That's why I know. That's why I always speak when we talk about stuff, and I always bring history back up, because I know that those are the
But
things.
it sounds like you were able to kind of look into that though and stop the
I didn't
because
know.
you held yourself accountable though.
No, I would never have knew that if someone ever took the time. Everybody don't take the time to help.
What we said, that's what we said earlier, is that we have to actually contextualize and take the time to educate
each other,
people at the level that other people are at.
Yes.
But then after you're educated, because even the word says after you know these things,
you're accountable.
You're held accountable. So
but people,
after you know what you're dealing with and what your mother dealt with and what your grandmother and your great grandmother, and this is a hereditary generational curse cycle, all of those things, you, like you mentioned, you break the cycle, you take it. And okay, so I'm coming from a spiritual aspect. Many are called, but few are chosen. So you may be chosen, your family, to destroy that. You may be chosen. You may be the chosen one. I may be the chosen one. You know what I'm saying? To destroy those things. But you have to, in that, which much is given, much is required. So if you're chosen to do that, then you do have to hold yourself accountable. And that's why, to me, self-reflection is so important.
Right.
Now, when you make a mistake, it's a mistake, but then after that mistake, you don't say, oh well, that was a mistake, I'm gonna do it again.
Right.
Well,
no,
you talking about repentance.
That's what the word will say, repentance, yeah. But what I'm saying is, and you may make the same mistake over and over and over again, but it's still going to convict you though, convict you because you know that you've been chosen to be the one to break that cycle.
Right. And I think
that goes with mental health though, because like I said, my mom, I'm sorry to cut you off, but my mom, in knowing some of the things before my mom passed, she told me some things, and then my dad told me some things after she passed, and a lot of that stuff I went through too, and didn't even know. Like I didn't know my mom was raped at 22, and I was raped at 22. You know what I'm saying? That's a generation. That has to be a curse. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want my son to go through anything remotely like that. Now I have a son, and he's not a girl, but he gonna go through some of the things. If the enemy will have his way, what I went through and what his dad went through, he gonna go through the same thing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's upon me to break that right now. Now that he's 5 years old. So when you're able to identify a thing, that's why I say accountability is so important. There's no excuse for that. There's no excuse for that, because when you know, you do better. That's it. Do better. Now, if you don't know, and that's what we're talking about in terms of mental health, that function part, that when you're able to identify a thing, it is up to us then.
But how do you?
It's up to us to go
learn?
to these people and say, look.
How do you learn something if you're chemically drowning yourself to cope? You just said people drink.
Somebody will have to go to that person. Somebody will have to have patience with that person.
Okay, but look at
you have to have patience with that person.
Riddle me this one then. How come the churches are afraid to go out into the community to reach these young thugs?
So I don't know if they're afraid. So I don't know if they're afraid or not. But as mentioned before,
but
in lieu of the mega church movement, the church has indeed become a business. Okay, this is a market. Just like everything else, just like pharmaceutical, just like when you go to the doctor's office, they're gonna tell you that you got something, and then they're gonna put you on this medication. But this because they put you on a medication and it has symptoms to it, it has side effects. You gotta get on another type of medication, and then because that medication has side effects, you're gonna have to get on another. It's the same thing as the church. The church, the mega church, it makes you feel good. And that's all they're designed to do, because if you actually came out that thing, that means that impacts their cash flow. So yeah, the church has an accountability piece. It does. Every church is not like that. But in lieu of the mega church, in lieu of, going back to the
churches run the smaller churches. Because the smaller
in
churches,
some capacity,
the smaller churches not all
all.
branches of the mega church.
If you're an independent,
that's why they call the mega churches.
Not always, but if you're independent,
bishops.
Right? But if you're there are non-denominationals though too.
Yeah, but what is a bishop?
They oversee. But what I'm saying is, just one point is that there are independent churches though that are not associated with a denomination at all, and they're not being governed by any entity.
Okay, but listen what I'm saying.
But they're all.
No, listen what I'm saying. Listen carefully, because I want you to understand this. When a pastor that's from a mega church, they call him a bishop, and a bishop means that he has people under him. And those are smaller churches.
Right.
And so those
that's
smaller.
An apostle.
So every smaller church has a leader, someone they look up to, a mentor.
Some of them do, not all.
I'm just saying. I'm just giving you. I'm giving you a synopsis of what goes on. This is how the churches work. This is how the fraternities are, because they are nothing but a big fraternity. And they got branches. Everything has a branch. So when a mega church, somebody was in that mega church, was close under the pastor, he probably was assistant pastor. Then he decided, he's like, well, why don't you go start your own church? He go start his own church. Then he gets someone under, assistant pastor. He go start your own church. Then he go start. They're all under that bishop, that one bishop. That's the reason why you don't see the changes. And that's why I was talking to you last time. That's why you don't see the changes in the community, because they're all under one umbrella.
And I'm not negating that general part.
But for me, I personally don't go to anyone else for self-healing other than myself and God. So I don't take it to church. Mm-hmm. If I go to church that day, I'm just there to receive whatever you got to say. Great, appreciate it. I'm out the door. Peace out. Appreciate you, homie. But for me, I'm actually digging deep into myself. So whether it's reading devotionals or reading why did I have this thought, or reading what caused the situation. Like for me, a lot of my pain came from I had to grow up super, super early. My mom had a baby at the last minute. I was 9, getting older, and I became like that child's mother. So I had him every single day.
But you didn't go nowhere either, though.
I was in school.
Yeah, but you stayed.
I had to miss days of school to watch him. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I had to say that. And we had to give a different reason why I couldn't go to school that day. So it was different things. And then like when I got into high school, my favorite classes were my art classes. I was getting awards for the best paintings and everything like that. But again, because I had to watch my brother, my mom decided to take me out of the art class because she wasn't able to get me to school in time because I had to watch my brother. So it's little things that, it's like you said, it's little things that may not be a big deal to some people, affects you if it's something that means a lot to you. You know what I mean? So for me, and even having my little brother on weekends all day, everyone's like, you got your baby today? And it was just really, I don't know if that's the reason why I just don't want kids, or I didn't want kids.
Probably.
It was just like, you got your baby today, or you got this today? And it's just like, no, like, And honestly, when I was like 20, I was like, woo, I raised my kids, I'm done.
You was a mean little. You was mean too.
I was a mom, y'all.
She
like
was mean.
I was a mom. That was my kid. I had
Her mom always asked me to talk to her. I'm like, I was going in and sit down and try to talk to her, and she'd be like, and we'd sit down and talk, me and her brother, and she would just be mean. And she'd slam the door in my face and everything.
You guys, I became a
There's a lot of mean people in the world. They don't even know that they being
hurt
mean.
people hurts people.
And I was rude, you guys. I was mean. And so that's why I'm just like, if we can stand or sit before you guys with a whole testimony from our test, and I just want everyone else to really know, like, you can do it. And I've even seen people on Facebook. Last year there was a younger girl who was on Facebook, and her mom was recording FaceTime Live of her, like, saying, I want to die, I want to be here, like, I hate you, and just really going off. And I kind of scrolled past it, like, why is this on Facebook? Then I scrolled back up, and I just really listened to the little girl, and she was 8, and the mom was hysterically crying. And I reached out to her. I called her from the Facebook app, and I was like, I would love to be this little girl's mentor, because that's who I was. And she was like, we don't even know you. I met up with the girl, and I was her mentor for a solid 8 to 10
See, and that's what I'm talking about. People who are not developmentally there, those individuals that are too young or not, don't know how to function in that capacity, that's when we have to be held accountable and reach out to them. Mm-hmm. And no, not everybody needs to know that we've done that. You know what I'm saying? But
I like that, because that was a genius way you put that. Because you know what happens? That's the thing where we was talking about. They need to come outside those walls and go out to the people. Mm-hmm. Because the sick people are not in the church. They're outside. They're outside
the church. And some sick people are in the church. But it is going out there and reaching those people. That's important.
And we do have a lot of sick people out here. Mm-hmm. And there's people that will hurt us. They will hurt us just because they're hurting.
Right. And so what I did with that little girl was I found her interest in her hobbies and what she liked to do. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I helped her find an outlet to, if you can pour that same, the fact that I would sit in my room and I wasted 2 years away just not knowing who I was. If we could take that same negative energy and pour it into something positive, then you'll win every single time. And something crazy my cousin said to me, because I recently went through a quick, deep, dark situation this year alone, and I was like, I refuse to get back to where I was before. So I would say it was a milder version, but at that time it didn't feel like it was mild, it felt like it was real. And my cousin looked at me and she was like, and I think you're not overcoming because you don't want to. You know what I mean? You're scared of the positive. You're scared of what the outcome could be. You're capable of so much better, but because you're so stuck in being mediocre or stuck in your misery, you're afraid to face the richer you, the better you, Mm-hmm. And so I had to snap out of it quick, because I'm like, if this little girl who can tell me that I don't want to come out of it, that's what got me out of it. You know what I mean? Like, to just know that on the other side that you can be so much more, and we're afraid of that, is a lot of reasons why we sit in our depression and we sit into
and I think that sometimes we're afraid to reaching out to people, because we've been hurt so bad, we build these 4 walls around us, and therefore we stay in those walls. And if you don't reach out to somebody, you have to reach out beyond yourself, because even yourself can do, what I mean? There's always somebody that God can use anything to that's why it showed in the Bible that it said that he was walking in the mule. And then the mule, the guy was whooping on the mule. You remember that? He was whooping on the donkey. Mm-hmm. He was calling it stubborn. Calling it an ass. He was just doing all that. But see, the moral of the story was, an ass was talking to another ass. Mm-hmm. That was the moral of the story. Mm-hmm. So it was just one of those things that sometimes we have to look at the metaphors of life and say, okay, I can reach out to somebody that I believe that it has my best interest. Everybody don't have your bad interest. If that lady never came, if I was sent to her, she never came to me. If I was never going to court, I probably would still be damaged. Mm-hmm. But the courts, for some reason, guy intervened, sent me to court, and then I had to deal with it.
That's right. And that's what she was saying earlier. Like, I thank God for the test that I've gone through, because it shaped and molded me to the person I am today. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, you go through these things and you go through mental illnesses and things like that, and you are able to overcome. And I know that that has been your message throughout this show. Mm-hmm. But
I was gonna say something really quickly. One thing that I think that I've done was the worst thing ever. I had just got a new car, and I'm only sharing this because this is when I realized I really hit rock bottom. My grandma always told me, like, you have an anger problem. If you don't fix it now, you'll be in jail. And I'm just like, girl, like, no, I'm not. Like, no, I'm not.
Mind you, said that to your
mind you, I was already in diversion before. So that was.
Really?
Yes, I've been in
Y'all
diversion.
was bad.
I had
both
anger.
of y'all. I never did any. I was so scared. Oh my god.
I had to fight for my life, but that's because I was nice. But I was like quiet, so I was quiet and I kept to myself. But I used to get into fights every year, and it finally caught up with me now to go to diversion. But anyway, what I was gonna say was there was a time where I was in a super super dark place. I had just graduated high school, so I'm like, okay. It's
the time when you was breaking the doors, punching holes in the wall, and I had to come over there and fix it.
That was Trey.
Oh my God.
That was Trey. I didn't even punch the walls. My hands was too pretty. But I got home. It was 3:00 in the afternoon, and my mom and I had got to a big altercation, and I couldn't understand why because it was 3:00 in the afternoon. All I did was went to go wash my car. I got some crazy voicemails and things, and when I came back, I blocked out. And my cousin was in the car with me, and I wasn't trying to kill anyone, but I was just angry. And I was like, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And I blacked out, and I floored my car as fast as I can, and I crashed my mom's car. So I crashed my car into my mom's car, and I made the biggest, like, I couldn't believe it. Next thing I know, I heard was my cousin was screaming. My mom came out, and she was like, you're gonna kill us. She's crazy. She called my whole family. Trishana's out to kill me. Like, and I believe I was this person now. You know what I mean? Because I did something that was so out of my character. I now believe that I was capable of killing everybody that I knew. You know what I mean? Knowing, like I said, knowing it's all lies, knowing that you wouldn't do it. But the fact that I was able to crash a car, something I never would have done intentionally. So now I believe I was like this killer. I was sent away. I had to move out the house. Like, a big crazy thing. And everyone around my family, when they approached me really like, standoffish and awkward, like, y'all tread lightly because Trishana's crazy. You know what I mean? Instead of trying to talk to me like, why were you upset? I can't think of one person in my family who asked me, what happened? Why did you do it? Mm-hmm. It was just more like, Trishana's crazy, tread lightly, send her to church early so she can get prayed for in the back room.
Oh, wow.
Like, that's what it was. You know what I mean? Like, no one stopped to ask me what was going on. But as I slowly overcame that, the only person that came and reached out to me was my great-grandmother, and she made sure I got back and forth to work. She was like, you know what, I'm gonna just make sure you get extra hours. I'm gonna help you get to work so you can pay this money to get your car fixed and to get your car fixed and to help your mom get her car fixed, whatever. So then I ended up having to take out a loan from the bank, my first loan ever. And when I tell you, all that really saved my life because that's when I learned about credit. That's when I learned about all. So from that point, and I don't want to give the message of do something bad because it's gonna save you. But that one thing is what like helped me with credit and helped me learn business and helped me learn all of that stuff. And so it's like I literally came full circle. But every single thing I went through is a testimony to, like I said, where I am today.
Amen.
So,
and you know what? The Bible says in Romans 8:28, all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. And that is like my best scripture. That's my favorite scripture to go to. That's the best scripture to ever go to when you're actually going through something. Because it doesn't say just some of the things. It's all things work together. All things. So whatever you're going through, you can always find water in the well from the experience that you're going through. And go ahead. I do want to point out, like, historically what it says about, because we were talking about mental health. I want to hit on post-traumatic stress disorder and how that ties into what we've gone through as a people during slavery. You talk a lot about that. And you wholeheartedly believe that a lot of what we're going through today in 2018 is due to, even referring back to the Willie Lynch, the division piece and all of that. So I don't mean to cut you off, but I really want us, because we only got like maybe 20 minutes. So after we hit on what you were getting ready to say, I kind of want to tie it back to us as a community, if that's okay with everyone.
All I was going to quickly say was reach out to someone if you are struggling. It doesn't have to be, a pastor or someone who even has their life together, because like I said, the person who helped me get through all that was my brother. And he was a gangbanger at the time, okay? Like, homeboy thought he was a straight up, like, gangbanger. But the fact that he had enough sense to he didn't want to see me go through something. You know what I mean? He was dealing with his own demons, and a lot of people are. You know what I mean? So don't look for that perfect person to help you get you out of it.
Yeah.
I just remember calling him every day, like, I crashed the car. Now what if I do this? Now what if I want to kill? You know what I mean? And so he was able to just really get me out of it. Like you said, like Michael said, he went to a therapist. We don't know if the therapist had her life together either. You know what I mean?
Right.
So don't seek out someone who seemingly looks like they have it all
Right,
together.
right.
You know what I mean? So
Nobody does.
Yeah.
And,
That's
and,
so
you know,
true.
and the funny thing is that growing up, dealing with family dynamics, as our family, I'm just going off of my family. I can't even speak for everybody else's family. Dealing with our family, we got a lot of religious people in our family.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of religious people, but we're the most dysfunctional family. But we're so religious, and I just don't understand it. I can't fathom how can we all know so much word and don't apply it. I just don't understand it. And when we try to do family events, I throw a lot of family events. I'm not putting me out there to make myself look like a hero, but I try to do a lot of family events because there's no way a family that has all this religion, go to all these different churches faithfully. I'm just gonna tell you, faithfully. They go to these churches faithfully. As soon as we want to throw a family event on a Sunday, I gotta go to church. One day out of a year to do a family event, and you can't separate yourself from your church to come to a family event so you can reach your own children, your own people.
A lot of people look
That
at
is
church.
the ridiculous thing in my life to even think about. I'm like, how can you fix your mouth to even say you are God chosen people when you can't even deal with your own, but you want to go sit up in this dang place and give you a hardcore time and effort to this church? I'm talking about, I gotta answer you this post or something about we about to go feed the men in our church. But
Not the homeless, the men.
No, the men in our church. But as soon as you try to bring a family event up, I gotta go to my church. I gotta go to my church.
No,
I'm serious. I just don't understand. That is the most ignorantest thing in my life. I'm like, God says you must clean up your own house first before you can go clean up. Before you go work in His house.
Okay, so you know that religion is just what it is. It's religious.
Exactly. That's what hurts me.
So my thing is, I tell people all the time. First of all, religion just means you do something repetitiously. You used to going to church, you're gonna go to church.
But
I'm agreeing with you. But
do they think they're gonna go to heaven because they're going to church?
Yes, most people do think that. You know why?
How silly you are.
Because you're not. There's something internally that's going on. Maybe mental capacity to understand and identify the difference between religion and spirituality. There are people who are spiritual and that are led by the Holy Spirit. There's people that are spiritual and have a relationship with God. There are people that go to church religiously and don't know who God is and cannot identify His voice. So, with that being said, that's something mental. You have conditioned yourself to believe that if I do this, if I just go to the church, I'm saved. You know what I'm saying? And if I miss church, oh my gosh, if I miss church, no. First of all, Jesus did not have a church. He did not go to a building to preach.
Right.
He had a walking ministry. He was out there with 12 disciples.
And what
he
did
did not have
an
entire, and he rested. So there was
what did he do on the Sabbath day?
What did he do on the seventh day?
On the Sabbath. Because remember, everybody said, oh, well, we ain't supposed to do nothing on Sabbath.
Because you're supposed to rest. And
Jesus
things like
walked through, they picked corn, they picked ears of corn, he healed people on Sabbath, and the Pharisees did not like that.
He worked. And you know what? Yes, so you're right. He works. Because you continue to work.
Exactly.
There's no limit on your works.
This is what
we get into religion.
No, we staying in the mental. I'm gonna tie this back into the mental.
I'm calling y'all out today.
I'm tying this back into the mental because this is where I can tell where the mental problem is. The process is not processed. If we're going to heal our community or heal things,
I'm trying to look to see if there's any comments. There's none. Okay.
If we're going to heal anything and we're going to heal our people, we have to admit that there's a mental problem within ourselves.
There is.
We have to start with self, because self is what causing us is giving us a demise. I can't see how a family can be living Antigua right across the street from you, and you don't speak to them because you go to a different church.
And
I just don't understand that.
That is a conditioning. That's a condition. Conditioning means a condition. And that is a conditioning. You're conditioned to believe that just because I'm Methodist and you're Baptist, we can't commune with each other. We can't fellowship.
You're not going to a different church. And
Yeah. No. God, I mean, first of all, God never said that. There was not any type of declaration that says that you have to be any of those things. Those are all man-made. Now, what the Bible says in its entirety is that you fellowship with those who are of you, like you. You know what I'm saying? And you can actually fellowship with the pagans.
Yes.
You're supposed to fellowship with everybody.
Yes.
And God is going, and God,
right,
and God's going to follow you. But tying it back into mental illness or mental health or mental limitations is that conditioning.
I like that, mental limitations.
Mental limitations. Conditioning is what hinders us. So this is okay. So I've been studying this book for about 3 years. It's Dr. Joy DeGroy. If you guys don't know who she is, please look her up. She's dope. She's like a mother. She's a researcher. She's a doctor. Obviously, she's educated. She's a psychiatrist. She's very well known
in the economics.
Yeah, see, she's very well known, and she wrote this book called Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. And so what it says about that is that with what is known about trauma, is it probably that significant number of African slaves experience a sufficient amount of trauma to warrant a diagnosis of post-traumatic slave disorder. Did y'all hear that?
Sorry.
Or was it the bag that was? Okay. Okay, I'm going to read it again. So this is an excerpt of her book, and it's under trauma effects. It states that with what is known about trauma, it's probable that significant numbers of African American slaves experience a sufficient amount of trauma to warrant a diagnosis of post-traumatic syndrome. Okay, so if most slaves suffered post-traumatic, and if you are a slave and you're pregnant as a woman and it transfers to your child, then your child has it, and then that child is going to transfer it to her child, and even with the men with the sperm, you know, when DNA entangles, that's what a soul tie is. I mean, all of this is just really deep. But anyway, years and years and years and years of post-traumatic has occurred within our community, and we have not addressed it. We haven't healed from it. We just think that this is the way we are. This is what we're gonna always be. It's called a self-fulfilling prophecy. You think that you are because they told you that's what you were. You know what I'm saying? And we don't heal. We've never healed from that. So how can we speak to the dynamic of post-traumatic as it stands in our community today? Like, do you believe that it has perpetuated itself in our community?
Absolutely.
I think the spiritual piece has left the house. I mean, I talked to y'all about this before. What was the spiritual piece inside of the house?
What was the spiritual piece?
What was the spiritual?
Or who was?
No, what was the spiritual piece inside of each individual home?
The Bible?
No, not just the Bible, but the kitchen table.
Oh.
The kitchen table always was a spiritual piece. You know why? It was the first thing that people did in the morning. They sat as a group, sat as a family, and they talked about their day and how you're supposed to act when you go to school.
So it's like a spiritual ritual.
Yes, and you prayed. You prayed and ate breakfast, and then you talked about your event and say, I don't want you to go to school acting up. You know, I'm gonna go to work. I'll be back. So then, after you got home from work and got home from school, you sat down for dinner, and you talked about your day.
I love that. Yeah.
You talked about your day, and you talked about what happened, and then if you acted up in school, then that was discussed at the table as you break bread. The spiritual bread. I mean, breaking bread, like Jesus said, break bread. You broke bread.
It was a literal bread.
Yeah,
it
was
conversation, communion.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because I jokingly recently said that what do people put into their kids nowadays besides get out home, shut the door, and quit letting my air out the house? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. No one is. I'm not gonna say no one, but a lot of people aren't putting anything into their kids. You know what I mean? It's just quit running in and out of my house. Get ready to go to basketball practice. Get ready to go to football practice. Get ready. You know what I mean?
They keep us busy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they
go.
Because they don't want
to deal with you.
They don't want us to They don't want us to elaborate with one another. They want us to stay busy. And the more busier we are, the less communication, and the less communication, the less consistency,
ready to say that.
That's
my whole thing.
So the man and the woman, a man is working, the woman's there, and
or the man's not in the house.
Or not in the home. So the less communication, the less commitment, and the less consistency causes the table to split like this. So now we don't have anything because you have your side of the table, I have my side of the table. You have your house, I have my house.
Right.
So everything is split. There's no union. So so now we what we do, we use coping mechanisms like weed, alcohol, church, all these other things to try to fill this table's gap.
And everything else, job, education.
And I want to say this too, because a lot of parents aren't able to pay for, daycare or whatever. And like I said, I had to grow up early. And it's like and a lot of parents, like my mom, she worked so hard and she protected our innocence. And I love that about my mom. She didn't expose us to like drugs, alcohol, cussing, things like that. Different men. We didn't know none of that. You know what I mean? So I completely take my hat off to my mom. But the only thing I will say is, if you are going through something where, it's okay to explain stuff to your kids, because that's how, like we talked about this on the show, one of the shows before, that's how they're going to be able to learn. So I didn't understand personally being 9 years old why I was stuck with a baby all the time, day in, day out. You know what I mean? So it's okay to let your kids know, like, this is what's going on, or this is why I'm telling you to do this, or this is why, instead of just saying, sit your such and such down. No, like, I need you to go in the corner so that I can do this. Or the way you talk to your son, okay, I need you to go out there because mom is working right now. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay to give your kids a little bit more details. Give them an inch, a little bit more, because that's what's going to help us know, other than, I don't know why, but mom always did this. I don't know why.
But you know what? You make a good point, because so when we deal with parenting, and this is what I learned in my studies when I was getting my master's degree, and it really just, it opened up my eyes about how I parented. So when you parent like that, when you're always like, do this, do that, or you about to get an ass whipping for this, this things like that nature, that's just like chattel slavery. That's what they did to us. Now I'm not saying that there's not any kids that need the ass whoop. But what I'm saying is a lot of how we parent is how slave owners dealt with us.
Right.
Oh, if you ain't gonna do that, I'm gonna get a switch and whoop you. That's what slave owners did. So that behavior is what we adopted, and then now that's what we perpetuate as we become parents. Right. And then our children grow up not understanding why mom did this or why mom did that. So that's why
in a dark place later.
Right. So that's why me as a parent, and some people don't like my parenting style. But I do sit my 5-year-old son down, and I explain to him exactly why he's about to get a whooping, or why he's about to get time out, or why he's getting his electronics taken away from him. I do explain to him why. Right. So, and then, his father doesn't think that I need to explain anything to him. Mm-hmm. So we come to we talked this weekend about some things, and I said, we just have to come to a common ground. We just have to work with one another. This is how I do it at my house. This is how you do it at your house. So let's merge together and just do what's necessary for our child. I don't care what everybody else is. I mean, I care, but like, this is my baby. Right. You know what I'm saying? So what's going to work for him is what I am interested in. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want to give him any type of trauma due to my parenting skills. So what is going to be the best fit for him? So, but a lot of times what we do, we get so frustrated as parents, we want to whoop their ass for something they don't even know that they're doing. Mm-hmm. They don't know that they're doing it. They're 3, 4, 5 years old. Well, and even at 15 years old.
Can we identify problems? Let's identify one mental problem. One mental problem is the mental problem. I'm going to go with mental. As far as mental health dealing with men and women. Mental health means lack of communication. The communication between the male and the female has a mental health. There's a mental problem because the reason why we can't sit down at the table and agree to how we're gonna discipline, but we can jump in the sack with each other and agree with us humping. But we can't. But after the humping part is over with, but we can't agree on how we're gonna raise our children after the
Here's
humping.
where I came with it because I don't just be doing that.
So,
I have a theory.
Let me finish this.
And it's 350, y'all.
So
353.
So after you have that mental thing, now there's a breakdown in communication because before then y'all communicated well, but after conceiving of a child, then the communication bases have broken, and then it becomes to a point where we didn't realize in the beginning because we never had that communication skill. We never discussed how we parent. Mm-hmm. So everybody parents is different. Mm-hmm. A man has his role, and a woman has her role. Every role is not significant to compromise each other in a way that you wanted to compromise, but it does compromise the child's upbringing. So sometimes what we do, we throw passes of interference in the way of a child's upbringing to help that child be a better person. Because if one is more of a nurturer than the other one, then that can be an interference because you ain't allowing him to do what that child needs, or she's not allowing you to do what that child needs. That's when we have to come to a compromising state. We have to sit down, put the mental issues away, because you know where the mental issues came from. It came from go back into slavery when they played us to turn the woman against the man against the woman. So you have that problem right there. We have to break that cycle. If we talk about mental, we have to break the mental. We all have a role. We play many hats when we come to raising our children. Mm-hmm. And we just have to allow each other to do their role. Mm-hmm. No matter if you don't like what they saying or how they doing it, walk out the room and let them do it. Then you come back later to you and that man when the child is going around, y'all discuss, I didn't like how you did that. Maybe that was just a little bit too hard. I felt like this. And then y'all have a civil conversation about the situation.
Yeah, that's good. I think that's good. I think that the expectations, though, aren't set on the table before, it's just easier to have sex with somebody than it is to actually communicate with them because your communication style is different. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Sex, everybody can have sex if they want to, you know what I'm saying? And the outcome is going to be the same. But when I communicate with you, the outcome may not be how I want it to be. So that's why the communication breakdown occurs, is because if I communicate with you a thing and you don't agree with me, my pride is going to rise up. Right. And that's a mental thing. That's a mental issue. My pride is going to rise up, and I think my thing is better, or the way that I operate is better than how you operate. So
you saying
that's why it's so easy for us to get lay in the bed with each other and have sex and make this child rather than to parent.
Well, can I give you a comparison to something? Okay, when you said it's easy to have sex. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm thinking that it's easy for us to pick up a violin and hit a tune. We can hit the string, but that doesn't mean we're playing music.
Right.
You know what I mean? So what I'm saying when we say we just get in the bed and have sex,
mm-hmm.
Sometimes we're not hitting the right tunes. We just pushing and pulling the strings and it's making a tune.
Anybody can do that.
Anybody can do that. So, but if we're gonna say having sex, or we're gonna say making love, then we're gonna say making love. Okay, so having sex is just taking.
But some people do just have sex, and some people do make love.
Yeah,
now, when I think of making love, I think that there's an actual connection with someone, and you actually have emotions for them. And because some people do just have sex, and then they make a baby.
So we know like picking up a violin, just hitting the strings.
We know what happens when you
do that. Random people.
No, I don't think this is random people. I mean, it's just I I don't know. People
Well,
do
no, we didn't know
what they do, but and
I'm
just
just
having
saying.
sex with random people is a mental thing too.
It is.
So
Yes.
we
That's
can
how
all tie it
Yeah.
to mental issues and mental health limitations and things. or
But we
limitations.
have to have this topic.
But this
again.
topic is interesting because
This
that
ain't done.
sex part.
This is part 2.
Can I just say this before we leave? That sex part, almost everybody does that.
Yeah.
And almost everybody had, not just random people, but people that's just not 100% committed to you. You will have sex with almost everybody does that. That's what
Luckily,
trips
I
me out.
haven't.
You ain't never had sex with nobody who you wasn't married to or committed to, or
not
committed
married.
to in that way.
No.
Or maybe he wasn't committed to you.
The 3 people I had sex with, they all 3 were my boyfriends. And I
No.
was with for a long time. That's what
You can have sex with a boyfriend, but that commitment piece.
Oh, well, they're all exes for a reason. So
Exactly. So when I say that almost everybody has been in a state of mind where they're just like, you know what, we're going to have sex, we're going to do this, and then it causes mental and emotional distortment in some way.
And I
Even
think,
in the marriage,
and another thing that we
same
talked
thing.
about
Even
too
in
on
the
this
marriage.
on this show was we talked about relationships before, and we were talking about losing yourself in relationships, and a lot of times it's because of a mental thing within yourself. You know what I mean?
Mental,
Like
yeah.
you're not happy with yourself. You're not completely. You're looking for someone else to fill a void in your life because
Yeah.
you
But
don't
not
feel
only-
complete.
Exactly. But you know what? I know a lot of people that, what time is it? It's 4:00. Okay, so I know, me included, I have sabotaged relationships because of my mental capacity. Like feeling like I wasn't worth it, or he's not gonna like me anyway. He's just here to have sex with me. You know, things like that. That's a mental disorder. That is a mental disorder. It has something to do with identity.
Right.
Your identity. So anyway, I would suggest that we actually have a part 2
Yeah.
of
I
this.
think part 2 on this one because this is not done.
Do you have
What do you
any
think?
words of wrapping up?
Yeah. Go ahead, China. Tell us something here.
I personally feel like we didn't get deep enough with like who we are and what we did, because I feel like hearing other people's stories ultimately helps other people overcome theirs. So maybe in the part 2, I can dig deeper into his and her story. I don't mind talking about it because, like I said, now that I've overcome it, it's easy for me to just throw it out there. But I do want to leave with my last closing words is just, like Michael was saying, a lot of depression and mental things come from how you grew up and what you've seen, So I just want to say to the parents out there to try to protect your child's innocence as much as you can. They don't need to see everything. If the dad's a drug dealer, they don't need to see the weed. They don't need to smell it. Just certain things should be protected. I didn't even know what curse words were until I got into about middle school. So just protect your child's innocence. And then, like Michael was saying, little things like having dinner together. You know what I mean? Even if it's not a cooked meal, sit down and eat your Popeyes together. It'll make a difference, And then I was going to say people who are my age and older who are dealing with depression to just remember that you're on this earth for a reason. You know what I mean? If you're still here, God's not done with you. So I just want you to find your reason. You know what I mean?
Amen.
That was my last little words.
That was good.
Thank
Well,
you.
fair.
My thing is just with the mental aspect is that you're not alone. You're not the only one that's going through questioning yourself. You're not the only one that's going through why me, or why did this happen to my family, or whatever the case may be. And I think that we all suffer from that, but I also think that it just really depends on how you cope with it. So I would just encourage everybody to get with someone, get with a therapist, get with a pastor, get with a friend, and just realize and self-reflect, realize what's going on in your life, and then also just come up with some type of healthy coping mechanism to be able to get through it. Because one thing about life is that you're always constantly going through change. The only thing that doesn't change is change. You're going to go through change. You're going to go through some traumatic experience, and you have to learn how to be able to identify that for one, and then cope with it.
And not be defeated.
And not feel defeated. And of course you're going to go through sadness, but realizing what sadness is and then realizing what depression is, because they're not the same. So I would just suggest stop holding things in and get with somebody that you can talk to and is able to help you kind of weed through whatever you're feeling.
I guess what I want to add is that as we grow, let us grow with understanding, because I think that understanding is a universal language, and I think that as long as we understand that everybody is not where we at or where we might want them to be, I think the healing mechanism will start, because then it'll make you reach across the board to help somebody, because you know that they're not there where you're at. But once we start to assume that they should be there, we don't reach it, we don't extend our hand. See, God gave us 2 eyes to see the beauty in people. He gave us 2 ears to hear pleasant words about people. He gave us 2 hands to reach out to help people, not punch them when they're down. He gave us 2 feet to walk towards them. He gave us 1 mouth to speak profoundly of His everlasting love. And if we're gonna continue to love people, let us use that one instrument He gave us to use it to amplify what we should do with all the 2 limbs. Because once we speak it, the limb's gonna follow. So, love, life, and loyalty.
Yep.
All right, y'all. Well, that's the We, Us, and Our show, and we will be back next Saturday. We hope you enjoyed, and again, happy Juneteenth, and let's keep it moving.
See you guys later.
Yes.
All right.
Get out the way. That was a good show.
It was.
Yeah. I just hate that our food kept going out.
I could talk about this all day though. Because
Yeah.
it's something.
It's deep. It really is.
I thank God I don't look like my doggone what I've been through.
That's right.
Hello. You said what? We have to leave this radio show? It's 2 to 4. No. I don't know why. What me? I'm scared to try to cook anything else. I don't know. I'll see. Get a box of wild rice. Well, they don't got onions there.
Holding things in
No.
and give with somebody.
Well, I wanted an onion too. We don't got no more onions. There was 2 in the refrigerator. No, we don't. There was 2 in the refrigerator, and the one that was in there was bad, and I used the one with the food you threw away. Well, I don't know why, because I brought one from my job that day, and I couldn't find it. Why? That's the one I brought, so why would you hide it? There was a big one. There was a big one I had just brought from my job when I brought those shrimps. Right, Mom. Tomorrow she hide food in the refrigerator, but she want me to cook. No, you hiding stuff.
Did she watch the show?
She watches the playbacks.
Oh, I guess.
So does my ex-boyfriend's grandpa. He be watching and texting me and calling me like, I've seen
He
this
just
show.
called you?
He'll
You like
text me.
that?
He'll text. He didn't see this one just yet, but when he sees it, he texts me.
You like this? What do you think? So what do you think about her? So what do you think about what do you think about? We didn't think that the guys just didn't make a good fit.
Cool. Say cool.
All of her brother.
Yeah. And I thought
he was just too quiet.
Yeah, and I told him the same thing. I thought he was gonna talk more because he usually does. So I didn't even bring it back up to
I
him.
need your help. Can you lift this up?
Since he was so quiet, I thought he was too quiet too. Yeah. Now one of the guys I feel like would be good would be my brother Trey, but I don't know. You know my brother Trey. He talks. Say who usually does too. But I'm like, let me look at first.
He seemed like he was nervous and
He wasn't nervous. That's just who he is, right?
No,
He just usually talks more.
Oh, he talked more?
Yeah, he usually does.
He said he was, thank you. He said he was tired though too.
Yeah.
He usually talks more because he's one of the people I usually talk to when about stuff, you know. But
what do you tell me about when you think about dynamics? You think that you have because
who say cool?
What's going to happen is that's why I hate using my phone. The reason why I hate using my phone is because y'all can't share. When we go live, the more you share, the more viewers you get.
Right.
And if y'all not sharing, then it just.
But my phone's been messed up all week. That's why I didn't have the Facebook app either. When she was saying get on Facebook and share it, my phone's been messed up all week. Even to this day, I was trying to record this on here and it won't post. So I gotta do that before the next show and try to.
Yeah, because y'all gotta get y'all Facebook thing. Because if you don't share it, then you lose a lot of viewers.
I know. I'm trying. I don't know what's going on.
Because remember when Steve's phone went, he went. Remember Mike Barnes used to share it all the time, and then I can share it. Steve
That's
share
why
it.
I was trying to share the actual thing that was created, the flyer or whatever.
Yeah, but a lot of people that was following you didn't go to We Us An Hour and like the page, so they didn't get so when We Us An Hour, some like 5 of your friends went on there and liked the page. So when we went
That's what I'm
live,
saying. I need to
and
get
you had like 30 of them but everybody didn't like the page. So
right. That's what I'm saying. I need to get the app so that I don't know what's going on with my phone because my phone will not download the app anymore.
Last minute, I did find out that I have to go to LA next week, so I will be gone Thursday through Monday, but then I won't be out of town again for a while.
Okay.
I have to go out of town for logging and stuff.
That's what's up.
I think Mike Barnes might want to come back. I talked to him the other day.
He said he was gonna come back.
The way he was talking, he was like, "Well, we can do this, we can do that." He said, I just want us to move beyond just Facebook and try to go.
He want to make money.
Yeah. But
I like his personality on there.
I do too.
Sure.
I really do think that there's a balance.
Yeah, I don't know how he is outside of
Mike,
that. But
outside of that, but here on the show, yeah, if he'll come back, that's what's up.
Yeah, I like him personally on the show too.
Yeah, because he likes to, I wish Steve would make his mind up, but I talked to him.
You don't
today.
think he made his mind?
I talked to him today, and we was talking about roles in the community. Cause you seen the post I had to destroy him. And,
I gotta go back to that.
and I destroyed him, and he was like, "Geez, Mike, you destroyed me."
No, he did not
Yes, he did.
say that.
That's
Excuse me.
That's what he said.
He didn't say that.
Yes, he did.
He said you destroyed him.
Well,
why he don't ever come to me and say that I destroyed him? He just be acting like he can't respond.
And he said,
"Is it nasty if I pour these back in the bag because I didn't eat these ones?"
Yeah, go ahead. No, yeah. Why don't you eat it? You don't want to eat it?
I'm full now.
Oh, you full off of that?
Back in there? I didn't touch them.
No, go ahead.
You want some wine?
No, thank you.
You good? Okay. So this is yours.
I'm gonna take that bottle out. Leave it right there.
All right.
So what do you think about our dynamic?
I think it's cool.
We disagree enough?
I think.
No, probably not for people.
It's a deeper topic today, though, so it wasn't a bunch of argumentative things. You know what I mean? But
we did argue a little, but I just think
we have to have some.
There has to be a balance.
It has to be a balance. We can't just always agree on each other.
There has to be a balance. Yeah.
Because that don't make good. That don't make good television.
I think it was good because you always get off topic at some point, and it helps.
I think we got off topic too much today.
How did we get off topic?
Because I think that people were like waiting for a mental health conversation that's more like mental health.
Well, when we got into
and then we started talking about like
slavery,
other stuff.
Well, but it really wasn't off topic. What it was it was going into.
Thank you. I got these off of Ghana. I got these from Ghana. Yeah, I have a clothing line. It's called African, and all of my clothes come from Ghana, the Ivory Coast, and Kenya. And so
send me the link.
I will. I will. And my purse too. I got this from Ghana.
Yeah, those are really cute. I was looking for sandals. I was saying during the show, sandals are cute.
Thank you.
Shana, what's yours, Shana? Your clothing line. You got a nice.
You got a clothing line?
A boutique, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. We're gonna do a pop-up shop pretty soon. My business partner, she's from Texas, or she's from Ivory Coast, but she lives in Texas. She's supposed to be coming up here next weekend, so we can do our pop-up shop, and we're going to discuss what dates and things like that. So if you're interested, if you want to bring some of your clothes to
As
the
long as
pop-up
it's not
shop.
next weekend, because I'll be gone.
No, it's not going to be
Okay.
next weekend.
Then after
but
that, yeah. Thank
I'll
you.
get with you. Yeah.
I would love to.
But you can always call me when you're going through something.
Luckily, I'm
Yeah, she did say that nobody was there for her. Don't nobody be there for me either. I gotta go through my own stuff.
Hello?
That's how we feel as women. Like nobody's there for us, so
Oh, well, yeah.
we gotta go
Well,
through
she
it.
knows I'll be there for her.
But I think with the whole recent stuff though, when I had to put my foot down, like we don't have
Hello?
to talk at all, is when I
Yeah,
just
what's up, man?
never look back. Stop
Yeah.
crying over him, everything. But
Mm.
back in the day, no, the only person that was there was
I'm
my
doing
brother.
okay.
Mhm,
Doing my radio
mhm.
show.
But
Well, yeah. If you never ever need to talk, just let me know too.
Yeah, I just got that.
I don't have a circle. I don't have female friends really.
anything.
I have like 3
So what's going on?
solid female friends. Like
Hello?
anything I'm going through, I can actually go to them. I don't have a crew. I don't have a clique. I don't have any of that.
I don't have.
I used to deal with like 10, 15 people at a time in terms of like friendship, quote unquote. And all of them to this day, we don't talk. So I have like 3 legit female friends, and that's it.
Yeah, I don't have a
Hey,
single
call me
one.
on my cell phone.
Except for my
At
cousin,
4,
like
you
my
got a
cousin.
pen?
My
Mhm.
mom's niece. I'm close to her, but she's 21, so it's like she
Okay.
hasn't really experienced. I mean,
Hey,
I'm
call me on my
3
cell
years older
phone.
than her, but it's still
Mhm.
she hasn't. Our mentalities are different.
Different.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So other than that, I mean, I really.
Yeah, call me. Let me know if you need anything. I mean,
Thank you. Luckily,
ready?
I've been really just reading and just
412
going to myself, so I've been able to,
706
release
706
anger without having to.
you know what you need to read?
Hmm.
I'm reading this book called The Black Goddess, and it's by Akil. His name is Akil,
I heard.
Akil. Yeah. So it's called The Black Goddess. You can get it from the African American bookstore by Akil, and it is so like the first chapter is gonna have you like shouting.
Really?
Yes.
And you
I
said it's
just-
called what?
It's called The Black Goddess, Black Woman Goddess, and it's reaffirming. Is I think the subtitle is like reaffirming your womanhood
Okay.
and everything that society said you were and you weren't. He's kind of reshaping those characters for you.
Yeah, I'm
So
gonna get that.
yeah, I've been reading that. I've been reading another book called Why Black Men Hate Black Women and Why They
Yeah.
Should Love Them.
Yeah, what's
I
going
need to
on?
read that too.
Mm-hmm. I think I'm just gonna kick it down here for a while because my son is not. I have to get my son tomorrow.
I see you
You
don't
said
know
I got a lot
what
to
to get.
say.
Girl, I'm just like,
A lot to say.
what do you do with a child? I don't
What?
know.
Oh shoot, you gotta bring that topic to the table so then we can discuss it.
All right.
Where you at? Yeah.
I like
He
that
says
song.
he
That's
says
playing.
South 22nd Street. Where's that at? No, where's that at? You talking about, is it downtown?
I want to see
Yeah,
if
I'm
I
trying to
can
think
look
where
at
that-
this
where that
drywall
downtown?
at the ice cream shop because we need to get drywall
Is it like
by
come swoop-
at least Tuesday.
And swooping and hang out for a quick
It's just
second.
one wall, but
Before I go to the crib.
Mm-hmm.
Well, shoot me the address. Shoot me the address, and I come swoop. I come by and we just holler. All right. Well, well, shoot. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Just shoot me your address, and I come swoop. I come by there. Text it to me. Text it to me. Yeah, text
My
it.
purse
and
won't
I'm
even.
gonna come right now. All right. Alright. Alright, bro. Yeah. You know what? I appreciate this because this was therapeutic for me today. I like arguing with you. I'm gonna start arguing with y'all more often because you know what? Y'all not gonna bully me on the show just because it's two women. Y'all got me bent.
I said he finally gave us a compliment and said he agreed with us. And then he even threw it out and said what you said was genius. I said, okay now.
So both of y'all stuff was genius.
That's
Okay,
funny.
now.
Hey.
I do want you to
All right,
see what
well-
this
Yeah,
accent was.
what time tomorrow?
Well, the
I
guys,
don't want it to be too early.
no, the guys putting the electricity on the wall in the morning, but we wanted to try to have it done by tomorrow.
How you gonna put wall on? You gonna put electricity on that same wall?
Yeah, on the brick wall.
How
But
you
then,
gonna do that? How you gonna do that without studs?
I don't know what he's doing, how he's
You
gonna get it
can't,
up there.
you can't run electricity unless you have studs. If you gonna put studs and drywall up,
I think he's gonna do the electricity, but we have to put a wall on it.
I know. This
And then
is what-
just
I
cut
know,
out
look,
around
I
the
know,
box.
but this is what I'm saying. You can't run electricity on a bare concrete wall without studs. Cause what he has to do, he has to come to bring the
Well, I'm
wire
saying,
down
I
the
don't know what
studs
he's
and
doing.
drill it over, hook it up to the stud.
Well, I'm
and
saying
then-
he might be doing the studs. I don't know. He knows what to do. I don't know, but I'm saying whoever's doing the framing work would have to just drill out the little box that's gonna be on there, whatever he's doing. Cause our
So
sign.
he gonna put the studs up.
Yeah, the electrician, he's doing that, but we just.
Oh, you just need the drywall put up.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you didn't say that. You said it's studs. That's what you told me earlier.
No, I didn't.
You said I need somebody to put studs. I
I
said we
didn't.
might have to put the wood up. That's what you said. We might have to put wood up.
Well, okay, so basically, it's a brick wall, and we're putting a sign on the wall that has electricity to it, so the sign's gonna be lit up. So the electrician's coming to just hook up all the wires and all that goes for the sign, but we have to frame the wall, whatever you do for a brick wall, and then put the brick or the
You
wood
using
on
the
it.
word, using the language. You said we have to frame the wall. Is he framing it,
No,
or is
he-
I have to frame it?
He's only doing electricity, that's all he knows how to do is electricity.
But I know, but are you listening to what you're saying?
Yes, I
Okay.
am.
You said that. What I'm trying to say, I don't mind doing the frame. I can frame it, but he can't run electricity unless it's framed first.
He said he has to frame it first, is what he said. He said that he wants to frame it first, and he's even talked to the sign company. They went back and forth, and they said to frame it first, but they said whoever is doing the actual build out, or to. I'm not
I can
supposed
put if he frames it and put the wire coming out, I can do the cutout. I can put the box on. I mean, he'll have the box, and I can cut the drywall and put it around the box.
Yeah, that's
easy.
basically all we're asking.
Okay, so all right, now I'm understanding. First, I thought the way he was talking, like I would have to frame it so he can run his wire and then hang the drywall.
No, he's gonna be putting the electricity in this square box right here.
Yeah.
Then we need someone to either.
How big is the wall?
It's tall, but it's skinny, so it's like this wide, but it's maybe it's.
Oh, from that wall from here.
No, it's this like really tall, but it's only like this
Alright,
wide,
let me get my
but it's
scissors
tall. It's tall.
See, look at the chair. It looks much better.
Yeah.
But he's running wires to it, and then we need it.
Okay. Well, call me. Hey, drink the rest of that, cause I don't want to drink that.
That's a lot in there.
I'm good.
But do you think that's something you be able to do?
When tomorrow?
You can say no if this is not.
So do y'all want this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna crack your head.
Well,
I'll crack your banker now.
well. Here's the thing. Are you able to go look at it real quick, or you don't have time?
Well, I'll tell you, they're gonna kill me. Here. You done with yours? Here, take the rest of it. I just poured a lot in mine, so. There. I poured a lot in mine. What is this? sure I got everything. Yeah. Hey, Bill. Bill.
Check.